Hello, everyone. Welcome to another version of the Sylvan story. We are grateful for you to be spending some time with us. I'm Nick Powles, publisher of 1851franchise.com. We are a franchise storytelling magazine. So today we're going to go through some more stories, just like we've been doing in the past, learn what it takes to become a Sylvan franchisee, and hopefully give you some insights that you can use as you continue to explore your journey. Jessica, I want to invite you in first. Thanks for spending some time with us. What I would love, and it's such a simplistic question, and I use it every time, but I think it frames things nicely. I would love you to tell us your story and what that means to you and what you want our audience to know about how you went through your career and navigated your way to becoming a Sylvan franchise owner.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. So I was always going to be a teacher. I knew it from when I was a teenager. I was that babysitter that everyone wanted to have on a Friday night. I went to college, got my education degree, and was teaching fourth grade and thought I was where I was going to land the rest of my life. My husband in 2002, right after we got married, got deployed to Iraq. And I found that I was going home at night and watching the news, which was not what I should have been doing. So naturally, I was looking for a part-time job that in my mind, I was going to have for about 6 months. And then I would live the rest of my life as a fourth grade classroom teacher. And thankfully, someone mentioned Sylvan because we are traditionally after school. And so I interviewed there and had the expectation of working for 6 months. And that was 21 years ago. So I started as a Sylvan teacher and just fell in love with the brand and what we were able to accomplish. So I ultimately took a full-time position in those centers, worked my way up to managing those locations. There were 2 at the time. And then my husband and I moved about an hour and a half away. And so I started that journey all over again, started teaching, worked my way up to managing. At that time, they had 3 locations. And then in 2017, so about 5 years ago, the owners at that time were ready to retire and said, "Hey, have you ever thought of becoming a business owner?" And we gave it a quick thought. And what I loved about it is it allowed me to stay within the brand that I so dearly loved, but gave me a little bit more flexibility in my schedule. So I had a little bit more control over that. So we started with 3 centers initially, added a 4th about 9 months later, and then just last year added a 5th and a 6th location. So my husband and I do this full time together now with 6 centers in the mid-Michigan area.
All right, so lots to unpack there. So go backwards as you're taking your journey into this category. Are you thinking business owner at any point, or is there some moment that triggered you to say, maybe I don't just want to work here, I want to own it?
I think the thought never crossed my mind until the owners at that time came to me and said, "We think you have this in you. We see it in you for you to step into this role." So in my mind, I really was always having that educator hat on. But I will say now that I sit in this franchisee role, one of the things we hear consistently from our team is how much they appreciate that I've been in that role, because I can look at it from both sides of the table. And so I think that that's helped us with the longevity of our staff and with the retention of our staff, that I can look at things from both sides.
That's awesome. So now you said when you became a franchise owner, you started with 3 locations and now you have 5. Like, is 6?
6.
Is that mentally trippy at all? Like, I mean, you've scaled, like you are a multi-unit operator, which in franchising, that's a small percentage of franchisees, period. But you've built a tremendous business. Like, do you get a chance to pinch yourself? Do you look back and say, this is crazy?
Yeah. So my favorite story is When I first became a franchisee, one of the very first things I did was hired a business coach. So I knew that I, coming from an education background, needed some business assistance. I didn't know what unemployment insurance was. I didn't know the first thing about creating an employee handbook or FMLA. And so I had the choice to either go back to school to get a business degree or hire a business coach. And we felt like a business coach was right in our situation. And in my 7-year plan, we had written that my husband and I would eventually do this together because we have very complementary strengths. I'm the visionary. I live in the gray world. He was in the military, lives in that black and white, very financially driven. And we wanted to do that at year 7 when we paid off our business debt. And uh, it every time we had the opportunity for a resale, it felt right. And at some point, I think it's really important to trust your gut. Your instinct is there for a reason. So in each case, the owners at that time reached out to us. We haven't done any outreach to grow our teams. But it just, when we visited the centers, we had a feeling that this was a place we were meant to be. And I'm very happy to say that my husband joined me last year at year 4, full time. And we just this June, so a month ago, added an additional layer to our administrative team. So certainly there were growing pains. That's a fast growth. But I think the great part is our team has been willing to give us some feedback, and they've been very open and transparent along the way, too.
That's so awesome. So I think if someone's on the outside thinking about becoming a franchise owner, I think one thing that can help them make them comfortable, which is something that you went through, is how you navigate COVID. And I'll share my opinion as I've spoken with many franchise owners from Sylvan. What I hear is that almost passion took over. Like you knew the difference that you were going to make. That even though financially it might be turbulent, every business was going to be turbulent. Like the purpose ended up triggering up, and clearly in your background with teaching, in a passion for teaching before you even get into this, did that help navigate that? I mean, it doesn't make it easy as a business owner to navigate COVID, but did that help? You felt like there was a purpose beyond just being in business.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, my husband is a great story on that flip side. He did not come from an education background, but would listen to me talking at night about our teams and what we're able to accomplish. He would see the stories that we get from families, those life changing stories that we get honestly on a weekly basis. And even as an outsider to the education world, he was able to say, how nice would it be to be full time and owning this business that changes lives? And that's really why we made the decision to do it together. But I would say the difference between the Sylvan franchise and some other franchise groups that I have some peers in is that ability to network and be a family. This group of franchisees truly cares for each other like no other franchise system that I've heard of. And there's no way I would have gotten through COVID, even through a staffing crisis. There's always going to be a pandemic or a staffing crisis. There's going to be something that comes up, and I know that I've got a good 25 people in my phone that I can call that sit in my seat across the country that will spend hours with me for nothing other than the pleasure of helping a fellow franchisee.
So as I'm listening to you speak, I mean, I keep on hearing teams and people and family. Like ultimately, is that the secret to business? You're not saying I and this is like or mine. You're talking about something that's bigger than you. Is having that mindset essential, in your opinion, to being successful as a business owner too?
Oh, absolutely. And I think part of this is because we are multi center owners. So I'm not the most important person in any one of our 6 centers. Any given family in our centers, or even some of our part time staff, may never meet me or may meet me once or twice in their life cycle in the centers. And so part of that is coming from my multi-center background and knowing that I need to have that mentality that my staff, especially my full-time teams, are more important to the success of our business than where I sit and what I do on a day-to-day basis. I feel like my job and my driver really is to make sure that they stay passionate and that I give them the resources and tools to be able to do what I've asked them to do effectively. I think I may have a little bit more centralized language. If I had one center, I would probably be a little bit more internal with that piece. But as a multi-center owner, there's no way I could do that.
I love that. That's fantastic advice. Jessica, thanks for sharing that. I'm going to put you back in the waiting room. I'll bring you back in just a little bit, but thank you so much for sharing your story. Audra, I want to bring you in next. Let's see if it works. Can you hear me okay? Okay, I'm getting feedback on my side let me try. I'm going to try Sylvan technology in real time. Hold on. Let's see. Okay. You can still hear me, right? Okay. I have the quick, easy solve. I'm gonna navigate technology. I am not an expert in it, but we're gonna make this work. So, Audra, same question to you. I'd love for you to share your story with us, everything you want us to know about you and your Sylvan journey, how you became a franchise owner.
Sure. I actually interned with Sylvan as a college student. I was home for a summer and helped out with summer camps, academic camps, and STEM camps at the time. And then after graduating, I just really fell in love with how much of an impact we could make on students. And it was so different than the traditional classroom. I graduated with an education degree, but really felt I could make a deeper impact with the Sylvan model than I could in a traditional classroom. So I came back, started as a teacher, worked through the various roles as a director, and then eventually bought my single center. So I am the in the office, running the show, but also doing all the behind the scenes business piece. So I have a very different view versus multi-center owners.
So I would love for you to give an insight into how you went through the process of due diligence, because becoming a first-time business owner is a fairly big deal. So what was your process like? What were any of the things that tripped you up that you had to overcome and get comfortable with as you were going through your diligence of becoming a business owner?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there was a big learning curve. I didn't have a business background. I was a teacher, and I think I worked really closely with the prior owner to learn a lot of the ins and outs of what was going on the business side of things. Corporate was extremely helpful in walking us through the steps and the process of the plans that we needed to have in place before even applying to take over ownership. But some of the pitfalls are truthfully just not knowing a lot of the finances, not knowing a lot of the books. And so the more that my current owner or prior owner, the one I bought from, could have shared with me at the time, the better equipped I was to take over. I would suggest to anyone to spend a lot of time in another Sylvan, whether it's the one they'd be buying or whether they'd be buying a new territory. But just the more experience you can see of how the day-to-day is run and then what the behind-the-scenes books look like, I think the better equipped you'd be to take over. And then echoing kind of what Jessica was chatting about, Sylvan is not an island. There's a huge family of fellow franchisees who have bought their center a year ago or 20 years ago, and they're all there to give you their advice. So I really leaned on a lot of other franchisees who'd done it before me to try to help map out the business plan, the projected budget, those kinds of things.
So now that you're in this, I would love to know what is the dream? Where do you take the business from here? And as you reflect back through your career and your life up to this point, has it completely evolved now that you're a business owner and what you want to do next?
Yeah, I mean, owning versus just being the director of the Sylvan has really changed my family's life. It's a totally different playing field that's really challenging and really rewarding for me. My dream is not to grow to multi-centers. I am very happy with the one center, but we have grown revenue double since I took over. And so my dream is to continue to grow it that way. And I would love to start working more on the business, less in the business. So hiring more staff who can really run it successfully so that I can be more on the outside and have a little more flexibility for myself. And I think now that I have a good understanding of how this business is run and what we can do to really move that needle, I think there's a lot of opportunity for me to kind of design my own path with what my role looks like at Sylvan.
So I want to go back into one thing that you just talked about is you've doubled your sales on a single unit. Is that through the relationships that you've built with the families that you're taking care of? Is it based on marketing? Is it based on staff? Like, how have you been able to grow within the one unit that you have? Because some operators will take the approach of the multi-unit route. You're really hyper focused on how do we continue to fill our four walls here. What has been your secret to success?
I don't think it's any one thing, but I think it's a combination of all the things. We've really focused heavily on keeping families happy, making sure families are, students are successful and that families are aware of that. So for us, it's been a lot more regular and consistent communication with families. And of course, we're doing a lot of marketing and getting out in the community and being well known. We have a lot of competition in our area, so we still keep up with a lot of those activities. But I think really just doing what Sylvan is designed to do, but doing it at a really high level or doing it really well within our center has helped us grow in volume. And I think it will continue to as we expand. And I think we have to add more staff to help handle the volume, because even through the pandemic, our volume has just been booming. And in order to keep that going, we have to have the Rockstar staff in center for that too. So I think grow, which wasn't necessarily the model when I first took over.
All right, and lastly, as a close, is there anything from a process standpoint that, from an expectation standpoint, was amiss, and how did you overcome that as you become an operator? And really from an advice standpoint, because you said obviously go work in a Sylvan if you haven't, or see a Sylvan if you haven't. But was there anything from an expectation standpoint that was a blind spot for you as a business owner that could help someone else that's going through that process?
Frankly, I thought I would work less, not more, but the opposite was true. But I think that's because I'm committed and I care and I want our families to be happy and grow that. So I think I expected that I would just hire other people to do all the things for me. But ultimately, when you're the owner, nobody quite cares about it the way you do. And so I think that's kind of the natural progression. And I think I've found that is very similar for all my fellow franchisees that I talk to. We live, breathe, eat, sleep, love Sylvan. So I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. But the expectation of, I'm going to own the business, maybe I'll work less, did not come to fruition.
So I lied. I said that was the last question. Now I have one more follow-up question. So I in the same seat as you as a business owner. I'm the business owner of our company, and I will say at some point I probably had the same expectations. My business is not a franchise, but maybe not. I didn't have the expectation of how much time I would work, but I didn't have an expectation of necessarily how much I would commit to it. But at some point, it didn't feel like work anymore. It felt like I was like, it was almost like my hobby. Did that happen for you as you're going through kind of, determining how do you overcome the expectation of working less?
Yeah, I mean, truly, I do think part of my identity is wrapped up in what I do, right? And so I do feel like being the owner or the director of Sylvan or the teacher at Sylvan, it would be hard to separate from a lot of that. So I think while there might be a lot of hours, the role that I take on might shift, but it's still going to be all things Sylvan. It's just going to look different. And again, I think that's one of the beautiful things about owning a Sylvan franchise is that we can take a lot of different types of people with a lot of different types of backgrounds, and you can kind of make it what you want based on your strengths. And then you fill in the gaps with other folks to help. So I got off track, Nick, but I think, did I think I was going to work this many hours? No, but do I want to be working less hours? Not necessarily, just different kinds of hours. Yeah, you have to really have a passion for the work that we do. And you'll find that the people in it have that passion. And so anyone who feels like that's a good idea or a good use of their time should definitely look into it. It's life-changing for both the staff and the students and families that we serve.
I love it. Audra, thanks for sharing your story. But again, I'm going to put you back in the waiting room and then I'll bring you back in. And then Kayanne, I want to bring you in. Did that work?
Hopefully, yes.
Yay! Technology,
Yay!
technology
After
is a beautiful
3
thing.
devices, and we're on the oldest device in the center, I think, right now.
I mean, I watched you navigate this thing. You're doing great at navigating how to make technology work. So that's
I
a win.
just knocked on someone's door and said, "Help." All right.
So I'm sure you heard parts of it, but same question to you.
Yep.
I would love to hear your story, what you want our audience to know, everything you want them to know about your Sylvan story as well.
All right. Well, it's been a long, long time because I started in 1999 as a part-time teacher just out of college and had a sixth grade teaching position ready in the fall. And I worked at Sylvan for 3 months over that summer of 99. And at the end of those 3 months, I was like, nope, I think this is where I belong. This is life changing. This is why I went into education as a teacher. And I contacted my franchisee and asked for opportunities. And at that time, there wasn't a big opportunity for me full time in that center. But 6 months later, I did stay with Sylvan and was hired full time. And then I worked my way through all the different director roles, director of education to center director. I moved to another bigger center for more opportunity. And in 2006, I ended up taking over 2 of 3 centers that I was managing for our franchisee. So that was many years ago. And I've operated 5 total centers, and I can't see myself really anywhere else but Sylvan.
All right, what a incredible story. So I want to go all the way back to 99. We're gonna party like it's 1999 in this next question. So your dream at that moment when you get out of college is you want to be an educator, I assume.
Right.
And so you earn a role or a job at a school, and you take this role out of college in between the graduation point and when you're going to start this, and probably not thinking this it falls under your passion of teaching, but not thinking this could be your lifelong journey. Like even the maturity of a young person to be able to say, I know my college career should lead me to working in education. I am in education. Like, was anybody questioning, are you crazy
Yes.
right now? Like, how did that go down?
Absolutely. My parents, most of all, my mom said, What do you mean you're turning down a real job for not a real job? So it was more about really following my passion with Sylvan and how we do change lives every day. And again, why I went into education is to change lives. And I felt like we were doing that every single time we were with every single student. And I just felt like, I don't know that I'll achieve that in the classroom the same way we're achieving that at Sylvan. So yeah, I did have that bridge to cross with many people in my life saying, why are you staying with a part-time job that you don't even know what's going to end it, where it's going to end. But for me, I just really admired our staff, what they were doing behind our windows at Sylvan as directors. And I just wanted to learn more. So I really had a desire to learn more, and I did. And every time I learned more, I loved it. And, there's really no looking back. So.
Well, it's interesting because like right now, and it's a big news story, is the teacher shortage crisis, that teachers are leaving the workforce. And they talk about the red tape and not the flexibility and having impact. And most of the time, those are teachers that have gone through a lifelong career, and now they're saying, I can't do this anymore. And obviously, like COVID beat down a lot of the process, but it's creating this eye-opening moment. And at the same side, some of these folks are saying, okay, now I can go into business ownership and set my own schedule and eliminate some of the red tape and own my business. That's an insight that people that have been teaching for 20, 30 years are gaining now that you gained so early on. I think it's amazing that you were able to stick with this and go through it. So at what point are you thinking business ownership? And because that's another big shift. You're going from, I thought I was going to be a teacher at a school system to now I'm teaching, still arguably having even more impact on students that need this in this career. But how does business ownership come into the discussion?
Approximately 2 years after being a director in my first center, I just was having a lot of success as a center director. And I thought, I can really probably do this on my own. And what really does that look like? So I did have a few meetings with corporate staff and found out more from other owners across the country and such. So I set my sights on something 2 years after I started with Sylvan, ended up leaving my first center, moving to another city for more opportunity with a new franchisee and a new city. And the rest is kind of history there. I established kind of a shadow stock ownership role with my second franchisee and said within 3 to 5 years, I think I want to, own and operate my own centers. And together we opened 3 centers, and I ended up taking over 2 of those 3. I think it was 4 years later. So kind of just set those goals and made it happen.
Not that anyone likes labels, but do you label yourself as a business owner, an entrepreneur, an educator? Like when people are asking, like, tell me what you do, what's your label now?
If I just meet someone in the community and they don't know, who I am just from being in this community as a Sylvan owner, because I do have that label in our cities. I just say I own and operate a Sylvan Learning Center, and I'm a teacher by trade. And then it kind of really leads into that conversation from there. Like, what? It is a pretty exciting thing to talk about, and it is my passion. And like I said before, I really don't see myself doing anything else. Talk about hours and work commitment and things in a day, and I just don't feel like that. I might work from 6 a.m. till 9 p.m., but I'm not really working all day every minute. But I'm available, and it's in me, it's in my family, it's what we do, it's what we're known for. And I strive to say, hey, if we offer excellent customer service, we'll have an excellent business. So that's just how I lead every day and think about my life.
I want to end this portion with this question, because I think it will resonate with an audience that's watching this. And again, you had the insight that you were going to make this decision at a very young age, that this was the career path for you. But can you still have a passion or fulfill the passion for educating when you're also a business owner and you're managing the financial side of what education costs?
Absolutely. So I think they really go hand in hand. Sylvan has just been a great marriage of education and business, satisfaction, success for me in my centers. I don't want to say see them as 2 different things, but of course, education comes first, quality service comes first in our centers, and then the business happens as a result of those 2 factors, that we uphold quality standards with Sylvan, and our kids and our families come first and foremost over everything. And again, then our business is excellent because of that.
I love it. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that
Sure.
portion of your story. So I'm going to add everyone back in. Audra, just because I want to make sure that I can get this right, I'm going to just test out to see how the sound's working. No. What I'm going to do when you talk, I'm unmuting you. I will still control this thing so we don't have feedback. I got this. All right. So first of all, again, thank you for everyone joining today. What I want to go back, I want to continue on the topic of how do you go from educator into business owner. And Jessica and Audra, I want to give you a chance to talk about this too, because Kayan and I just went through that. How do you navigate passion? Jessica, we'll start with you. How do you navigate passion for making such a difference and managing a P&L as a business operator?
Yeah, I almost see that as one of the flexibilities that being a Sylvan franchisee provides. So Sylvan Corporate provides me with all of the quality academic programs that I need to deliver results. But if I'm talking about looking to manage my P&L, or how do I, do I lay employees off during COVID? What does that look like? I also have a network of both Sylvan business owners as well as non-Sylvan business owners. There is a franchise group within Sylvan where franchisees are supporting fellow franchisees. And then just as important, I'm part of a women's CEO group in my local town where I live. And although none of us are in similar business entities, I get so much great advice from that group of other they happen to be women, but just other business owners in general. So not just staying confined within my Sylvan walls, but also remembering that I'm a business owner, just like the woman who owns a nail salon down the street, and so networking with them is just as important as my Sylvan community.
I love it. And Audra, same question to you. Like, how do you navigate the difference between passion and business?
I think the passion is embedded in the work we do, so it's not really hard to navigate that piece. But I really resonated with what Kayan said, because if we're doing a great job in center, if we're taking care of customers, taking care of families, the business falls into place. We haven't hit many huge roadblocks as long as we're doing our job well, and corporate provides that great product that we are, the deliverers of. I think it's very easy to love what we do. And it's very fun as the business owner to create the culture within our center of happy staff helping us deliver that great product.
Love it. Appreciate that. So, Kayan, let me go over to you on this one, and I'll ask all of you the same question. What is the scariest part of being a business operator, or what freaks you out the most, whether it's on a day basis or it's happened over your career as a business operator?
Well, I can speak to that. I lived through the recession in 2008 through 2011. It really cash flow and just navigating the economic world. We can't control all that, of course, but we can control how we respond to it. So I purchased in 2006 and I purchased quite a hefty loan to purchase my established centers, but we made it through the recession and the times of all that. And our services, our commitment to staying open, our commitment to each other as staff, and managing all business practices wisely so that we stayed afloat. And so I can speak to living through the first recession back in 2008 and coming out of that with success, and even more success than I would have imagined in the recent years with COVID. I think that set us up for more success then, just because we were, experienced with getting through that in the past. COVID didn't set us back. In fact, we had our more record years in COVID times. Again, sticking back to the business practices that we aligned back in 2006 when we purchased.
Are you able to reflect backwards on, you're working in 2001, which was chaos, and with September 11th, you have 2008, yeah. Which we had to go through some bumpiness there. You have 2020, you got now 22 as a different one. Does knowing that you can survive that, does that make you feel confident with the future?
Absolutely. Yes, for sure. It's always scary, and it's just about reevaluating where we all are, what our commitment level is, and what are we going to do to make it happen. So failure is not an option in my book. My family motto is make it happen, and we do.
Love it. Jessica, over to you. Same sort of question. What's the scariest thing as a business owner? What scares you on a either daily or regular basis?
Yeah, oddly enough, similar answer. So our LLC is COT. It stands for Circle of Trust, and that's the idea that I have 60 plus individuals who are relying on my decisions to support their families. And not only that, my own family has a lot of collateral in this business. So I remember last August sobbing on the bed saying, if we don't make it through COVID, we not only do all these people lose their jobs, but we personally lose our home. And I think that that's a weight that will never go away. Kayan's a great example. There will always be something large that we have to get through. And that's where having that knowledge that there are so many that have come before us that have gotten through it and that are willing to help new franchisees get through it is so reassuring, because I truly feel like I'm not in those crises alone.
That's awesome. Love it. And Audra, same question to you. What scares you on a daily basis, or whatever hits you as a business operator?
On a daily basis, I'm probably worried about everyone showing up on time and making sure that all the day-to-day needs are met. or a director quitting unexpectedly, things like that. But that's not a major concern. I think the biggest fear is the unknown with the finances. The same thing. I did not get to weather that '08 recession, so I'm just hoping we don't have another one. But in the meantime, we have a lot of power to prepare, to position ourselves well to ride those, and then a lot of fellow people to lean on to help us through that. So the fear is the unknown.
All right, and let's go ahead and end with this. We'll go Jessica, Audra, and Kayanne to take us home. From a advice standpoint for people that are out there thinking about buying or becoming a part of the Sylvan family, what advice would you have for them on the process, on what it takes, on what you would have done differently? Jessica, do you want to start with just your advice to anybody that's watching this?
Absolutely. Don't go at it alone, and don't hold yourself to unrealistic expectations. So coming in as a previous manager of locations, I had this mindset that I was going to walk in and I knew exactly what I was doing and I was going to be so successful. And, of course, that mindset, the first road bump I hit from a cash flow perspective, I didn't want to reach out because I didn't want to admit that I couldn't do it all by myself. And so the biggest mistake I made was to not utilize my connections and my family of fellow franchisees. Because the moment I reached out and had an open and transparent, honest conversation, I was met with everybody's been through that. Here's some great advice. And so whether it's, if you're new to the brand, you will find a franchisee that will allow you to spend significant time in their centers to make sure this is a right fit for you. If you're in the brand and are interested in moving forward, don't be afraid to speak to franchisees in that role. So just not going at it alone was the biggest mistake that I made, and hope to help people avoid.
I love it. That's great. Audra, same question to you.
Jessica literally took the words out of my mouth because, Nick, you asked, what would your advice be? And I was in my head, don't go at it alone. You're buying into a franchise. There's support there. Use that. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Don't try to create it yourself. For me, buying the center I was already working in, I also thought I knew it all, and I was already running it for the most part. So what could there be that I still had yet to learn? But what I didn't realize is that there are so many people out there to bounce ideas off of, people that for the first 15 years of Sylvan with me, I never knew anything about. I never knew that I could talk and reach out to other systems because our prior owner wasn't doing that. I think that's another piece that's helped us double our revenues, that I'm learning from other experts. So leaning on others, taking advantage of the franchise system that you're paying into is critical.
Love it. And Kayanne?
All right, to bring it home, my advice to new franchisees would be to focus on service, focus on reaching out to the best operators in Sylvan and relying on those people and the people at corporate to help you navigate and understand the business. Your P&L is really important. Understanding those aspects are more important than rewriting an employee handbook. So don't spend a ton of time on those kinds of things. Rather, learn and adapt from the top operators, and again, focus on service and your business will be there.
I love it. So we have two questions from our audience that I figure will just get answered real quick. And if all of you want to go, we could go. I'll go Jessica, Audra, and then Kayanne. Same question if any of you have any feedback on this. But one of the question came in, is the opportunity only good for teachers? Jessica, how would you answer that?
No, absolutely not. There are some really top performers in our system who don't come from that education world. I think being able to have a passion for educating students is important, but that doesn't mean that you have to have a teaching background. It is absolutely, there are some long days, there are some difficult situations. So I think you do have to have a passion for children and making sure that they have the right fit. But no, I don't think you have to have an education back. My husband doesn't, and he's doing very well in the business. He's a year and a half in.
I love it. Audra, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I've just seen a lot of really successful Sylvan owners who are not teachers by any stretch. And they are outperforming a lot of us. And we're grateful that they're in the system because we're learning from them too, and vice versa.
And Kayanne, anything else you want to add?
Just totally agree. You just have to be passionate, kind, and focused on service.
Okay. And then the other question that came in, and Kayanne and Jessica, as multi-unit operator, I think there's value in this. Among the centers you manage, what is the general percentage of students by K5, 6 to 8, 9 to 12? Is there any, do you see any consistencies? Kayanne, you can go first, Jessica, you can go second, in who comes in there, just to give an insight to our audience?
In my centers, most of our age group over the years has typically been 4th through 7th grade. In recent years with COVID, we're seeing an influx of kindergarten and 1st and 2nd graders, more than we really ever have. So more that middle age grade. But again, because of COVID, the younger students are there. Personally, we love servicing our high school students, college prep and everything. So we have a strong focus there. And so a strong enrollment is there as well.
Love it. Jessica, what about you?
Yeah, to some extent, honestly, I think some of it depends on our full-time teams that we have in the center. I have some full-time directors who are very passionate about that middle and high school population, and I find that those centers tend to have a higher population of that because their passion shines through when they talk about that group. My directors who've come from the preschool K1-2 world tend to have a little bit more of those students. So I think similar to Kayanne, we've shifted a little bit younger coming out of the pandemic, but to some extent, we also allow our directors to kind of shine in their passionate areas as well.
Love it. Well, for Jessica, Audra, and Kayanne, I appreciate you guys all sharing your stories. They were fantastic. And to our audience for watching, thank you for paying attention. We wish you the best of luck on your guys' journeys and your guys' journeys. And thank you so much for sharing your Sylvan story. Appreciate it.
Thanks.